Dallas, for someone searching how to find their purpose, where do you tell them to start?
I mean, often a lot of my advice seems contrary. A lot of times, if someone's telling me they're searching for something, I tell them stop searching. Usually, what I've found is everything that we're searching for is searching for us. And if we soften our view and find a balance between like having some focused attention on something and making it a priority, along with just allowing ourselves to just tune in and listen. It's the contemplative space that they talk a lot about in the gene keys, for those listeners who may or may not know what the gene keys are. But that process is about like holding something very loosely in your hand and giving yourself time to be in kind of a concentrated space where you're really thinking like, what do I love to do? So asking really good questions. What do I love to do? It's kind of like the ikigai, right? Like, what do I love to do? What does the world need more of? But a lot of people get that wrong because they think that when they answer all those questions, their purpose is then to find one thing that encompasses all of that. And that's not the case. It's not the case. Your work may touch on the different things that the world needs more of, that you're skilled at, that you love and are passionate about. It may touch on all those things, but it doesn't have to encompass all of those things, because your work may be what the world needs and what you're skilled at, and then what you're passionate about might actually be your family. It might not actually be work necessarily, which is what we're finding more and more as people become more aligned, conscious, and connected, right? It's not all about what we're doing. And in Western world, where it's become, for so many years about what we're doing, what we're accumulating, what we're getting. So first, you don't have to look so hard. It's something that's innate and born in you. Number two, ask good questions. Number three, use a process like the Ikigai process. But when you do, just realize that there doesn't have to be this one thing that you do for work that encompasses everything that makes you happy. You can love your work and be really, really good at it and find your actual purpose and passion in so many other things that you fulfill your life with.
Okay. And you said that it doesn't necessarily have to be just your work.
Yeah, people always think their work is their purpose. It's not. You're gonna end up on your deathbed at 90, 112, and you may be fulfilled. Like, let's say it's Quincy Jones, right? Died not too long ago, one of the greatest musical producers of all time. Should have been a much bigger deal when he passed away, by the way. He was fucking brilliant. Like, he did Michael Jackson's Thriller album. Like, he was one of the greatest musical, creators of all time. If you look through his list it's just insane. Now, he may die feeling like, man, my music, it made such an impact in the world and I loved what I did. But really, him loving what he did and passing on the passion for just loving what you do might be what inspired his child, and the inspiration that came through his child, it might be his purpose for being here. He may have, we don't even know, he may have donated a kidney and saved someone's life, and he may feel that's it. That in terms of spirit, that's probably spirit's purpose for you being here. We think our purpose is something that we're doing. It's not. Your purpose is who you are being in the world. It is the essence of who you are as a human being. If you then take that into a vehicle, great, absolutely. But I believe people should feel connected to their purpose, whether they're doing their work or or sitting in line at the fucking grocery store. Because the fact is a lot of times people will be so connected to their work and think that's the purpose, but then the industry changes, or they don't feel attached to their work anymore, and now they need to pivot. But there's this big empty period of feeling like they're useless and dead and empty inside, because what made them purposeful is now gone. So your purpose is the essence of you being here on this fucking planet. It may be because you give blood and save someone's life, and maybe because you have children, and maybe because you inspire something in someone. That may all also come through your work. But when we make our purpose and reason for living our work, to me, that is superficial and empty, and it usually ends in people feeling very disconnected. This is why I'll work with someone who's a multimillionaire. They just sold this business that they built, over the course of like 10 years. It was their only focus. And then they sell it for all this money. And now they're like, now what? They feel even more empty than they did before starting the fucking business. And so you don't have to ever feel that way when you recognize that your purpose is literally you being here, allowing God and consciousness to be expressed through you. And then how you do that uniquely is your purpose. If you can also find work that you are passionate about and bring that essence through it, amen. Awesome. Good for you.
And now going back to your story, right? I think you were an accountant or a CPA in the past, a financial
Close. Yeah.
financial planner.
But before even that, I was a battle MC and a breakdancer for 10 years, man. A decade of my life. I competed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would travel to New York, to Boston, to Providence with my friends. We would battle other, b-boy teams. I was on a microphone almost every single day because my friend had a studio built in his little basement, and so like my purpose and passion at that time was just being an MC and being a b-boy, and it came through naturally and creatively.
Are you saying that was your purpose, or that is again your purpose, but it was through a different vehicle? How can you distinguish those two?
Yep, what you just said, the second part. At that time, it was my purpose because that's what was coming through naturally and creatively through me, right? That's what made me feel alive. That was a very true, authentic expression. I didn't even have to think about it, right? I grew up in an environment where I was surrounded by it. That's what was attracted to me. And then I would try things and I would be good at them. And then I would feel excited because it brought friendship, community, and it was attached to a culture that, gave me a sense of identity, and it gave me something to do, but I also absolutely freaking loved it, and I was actually really fucking good at it. So, but the irony to that is that I didn't have to give it any thought. I was literally a teenager, and there it was. It was alive in me, right? Now, I then, as you mentioned, became a financial planner. At some point, if I decided like, I don't think I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I don't think I'm that good. And I also didn't have that surrounding me. I had friends who were willing to maybe put together like a little demo in the basement, but no one was really had a vision or a dream or desire, myself or my friends, to then go shop that out to record labels and go perform constantly and make it a thing, right? You take Outkast out in, where they were, and they were in the dungeon and literally in the basement also making music, but they knew that they wanted to be this hip hop group. They had a clearer path to it. They knew that they were going to make this music, put out in the world. We were just kind of messing around.
What's the difference between a purpose and a vision then?
So a purpose, again, being in my world, a purpose is just who you are. It should be the expression of your whole life, right? Like people always want to make it a singular thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. You one day might be a father, brother, and maybe that'll be a good part of your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You may become, like extremely even more successful marketer than you already are and help so many people. This podcast may take you in directions that you can't anticipate. Which one of those is your purpose? Let's say you had to choose. How would that feel? You would feel limited.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what people don't realize, is that they're limiting themselves when they think that their purpose is this one lane, this one thing, this one vehicle that they have to figure out versus a way of living in the world. A vision is something that is, I believe, because I believe we're all just channels. We're all just beings being channeled. We are being lived and breathed by consciousness. That is my personal discovery and opinion. And in so, you will have things that will come through you that will direct where to put your energy. So a vision is a mixture of your own inner desire along with God's desire for you.
Mm.
And when you can align those two together, powerful and beautiful things happen. That's the vision. It's like, I just know I need to write this book. I just know I need to go to, Bali. Man, I really want to create this company. Great. That's your vision. How you bring the essence of who you are through it will inform that vision, and that's part of your purpose.
So did you have a vision to become this financial planner?
Oh, no.
Or how did
no, my vision originally was to do something in hip hop related, but I didn't have a long-term vision of what that would look like. I even had opportunities that came across my plate that I said no to out of fear. So
how often is that? Like, how common is that for people? Like having these opportunities that are aligned with their purpose and passion and vision, but they take it. Why do you think this happens?
Life is potentiality. So we have multiple timelines that are existing at the same time. And our choices along that way just affect the potentiality of what the outcome is. So I could have said yes to an opportunity, and that would have definitely taken me down potentially more of a musical and more of a creative route. Or that could have taken me into an industry that, who knows, would have had maybe a less than positive impact on my soul. I don't know. I can't know that, right? But I know at that time, what was coming up was I was nervous to do it alone. And the people around me also weren't as confident, probably even, ironically, even less so. So I was looking to them to, boost my confidence because I was hesitant. They were even less confident than I was. So they were no help. And so I think in terms of reason, there's many reasons. Sometimes it's because we're protecting ourselves. So our soul knows that if we go down that path at that specific time, it's actually going to lead to more destruction, and we're really here for something else. So it protects us. Like we often want to think that because I'm afraid to do something, or I have some kind of doubt, or something feels like it's in my way, that it's always a negative. It's not always a negative. Sometimes you're being redirected by your own higher self. Your own higher self says, no, if you get that now, what's going to happen is it's going to lead to you being drug addicted. It's going to lead to you being, part of an industry you're not really meant to be a part of. What you're actually supposed to get in this moment is just to see your doubt, see who you're surrounded by, see that you do have these opportunities, potential opportunities coming your way. That's actually the purpose of that moment. It's not necessarily to say yes to it. So there's a few things. Sometimes it is absolutely doubt getting in your way of your dream because these things are conditioned into us through patterns that we were given from our family or from society. Happens a lot, right? Fear of fear. People think fear of failure is the biggest thing. It's actually doubt. Because most people will go through their fear of failure if their doubt is minimized. Yeah, I'm not sure this could work out, but I'm pretty confident it will. I'll figure something out. I'll find a way.
Mm-hmm.
So if the doubt is small, then they'll work through the fear of failure. They'll work through the fear of success. They'll say, fuck it and do it anyway. But if the doubt is really, really loud, they won't actually activate that inner courage to go through the process and do it anyway. So I find doubt is actually the greater killer than fear. Self-doubt is actually the greatest dream killer on the planet. So yes, that comes up a lot for people, and when people go back into their past stories and say, man, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and they create all of this guilt and regret, I often work with them to help alleviate that and show them how that timeline that they've made up in their mind of some perfect opportunity that they missed now that they have shame and regret around it might not have been what they needed at that time. Their soul probably redirected them. Where they're at right now is perfect. So don't worry about what you missed or could have or should have, would have done. Maybe your soul was directing you to this moment, and maybe now is the important moment. What are you going to do now?
And what is this, again, how do we break through the illusion that we missed the boat?
Yeah. By understanding that there's infinite timelines. Missing the boat is lack and scarcity in perception. It is misusing your imagination. Your imagination is infinite. It's one of the Einstein, Tesla. They talked about how your imagination is it is your connection to consciousness. It is the field in which we create all of what we experience as reality,
Mm-hmm.
and it has infinite potential. So why would you want to misuse that imagination to limit the energy you have, the capacity you have to go forward by overthinking something in the past, one, that you cannot change, and two, might have redirected you on purpose, might have been your soul protecting you. So if you can zoom out, like a lot of my work is helping people to zoom in, to tune in to what their internal experience is before they tune out, thinking that the world outside needs to change before they do. That's part one. But part two, sometimes we need to zoom out. We need to get a broader, softer perspective of all the potentialities and understand you are not limited. You didn't miss the boat. There's more boats.
Yeah. And
Maybe that boat later on was the Titanic and it fucking sank and you actually survived because you missed the boat.
there we go. Yeah. Now let's go to the people who never take action. Why do people get comfortable with safe, with living a fine life, a good but not great?
Yeah. It takes a lot of courage to go into the unknown. It really does. To break your patterns that were conditioned into you by parents who might have, I had a woman that I dated a long time ago. She really felt called to have like a multi-unit apartment building. And this was years and years ago. Nobody in our world was, at that time, at our young age, was like invested. We just didn't have that around us. We didn't see it in our families. We didn't see it in our friends. This wasn't our environment. And I think someone in her family had like a bad experience, right? Of like renting a property, and then they let in the wrong renters and the people destroyed it. So here's this young girl, and parents want to protect her, want to save her from their mistakes, right? And so, I think that's part of it, where it's like you have to be able to determine and discern what is your soul's actual calling, what is actual good advice versus someone speaking through their fears, their conditions, their patterns. And when you get that clarity of like, no, this is actually what's for me. I hear you. I hear the warning. And so what you think you're telling me to do is not get into real estate. Actually, what I hear is you didn't do your due diligence of getting proper renters. So the lesson here is the lesson isn't don't get into real estate. The lesson is, I got to be really smart about who I let rent my properties. You see what I'm saying? So when someone can discern that for themselves, then they can take different action. They won't feel as frozen by those past conditions and past events, whether they were their own mistakes or someone else's mistakes. That's one answer. Okay. Another answer is people say it's like, man, you need to get out of your comfort zone, but fuck, the world just keeps making everything more comfortable, brother. Right? AI makes things more comfortable. Technology makes things more comfortable. Like, the more we sit in these lukewarm bathtubs, the more relaxed and safe we feel. And so why would most people want to fight their way out of that if the dream or vision isn't big enough, if they're not surrounded by inspiring people, right? If they weren't told that they were capable and strong, so they don't have the self-esteem and the self-confidence. They don't have the environment that's motivating them. They're allowing themselves to sit and be stagnant, so there isn't actually movement energy, and so there actually even really isn't a clear vision for them anyway. They say things like, I want to help people. Well, what the fuck does that mean? You literally can go out to a soup kitchen right now, deliver a coat, some cans of soup, stand in line serving soup, and you've helped people, right? So people are like, they're unclear about what their vision even is. When I find someone can put themselves into a supportive environment, they can take time and energy to get clear about what vision is wanting to come through for them, then they typically can tap into another level of energy and motivation to start doing the work that's going to make them uncomfortable, right? So that's the other part of it. Do you have patterns and conditioning that was instilled in you from your past that is making you, kind of repeat someone else's mistakes? And then, do you actually have a clear vision? Do you have anything that's actually lighting you up and exciting you enough to want to move through the resistance? Because if you don't, then you won't. So many people are doing things literally simply just to do things. I growing up, when I was a financial planner, it was, you got to take massive action, massive action. But I promise you, if you're taking massive action in the wrong direction, that is only going to drain you. It is going to, the results will never be satisfactory. And so why does it matter how high you climb if your ladder's been up against the wrong wall the whole time?
100%. And again, that ties back into the discernment. So do you think discernment is a trained skill, or
Yes.
is it something that you're born with?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think intuition. So intuition is kind of is bred out of us. Ironically, we're born just clear intuitive beings. Period. It's then trained out of us. We have to kind of tap back into it. Intuition is very supportive for our discernment. Discernment is very important for our intuition. They support and feed each other, right? So the more discerning I am, then the easier it is to clear out the noise and tune in to my guided intuition. The more I practice my intuition, the easier it becomes to be discerning. So it is a skill, and it's a combination of, like, you have the ability to discern. You haven't turned that on and practiced it enough.
Mm-hmm. What are practices that you've learned through your own coaching and talking to people to increase that discernment? Because I've personally felt right now, in the age of AI, as we become more comfortable, we need to practice more of the discernment side, because if not, we're just going to take what ChatGPT gives us and use it as a law.
Yeah, so much. Oh my God. I'm seeing so many amazing posts. I have a friend of mine, Nick Kuzmich, one of the top Facebook ad specialists in the world, literally. And he just did this great post about this kind of new direction. He's building a business in a different direction. He was using it to search some law information in Canada using ChatGPT, and it gave him completely wrong info. And he had to keep, you sure? Can we check this? And how do you know that? And could you show me proof of this? And eventually at the end of the process, it was like, no, I was completely wrong. that is absolutely legal. Blah blah. It was like the complete opposite of what it started out saying. And so if someone isn't like you're pointing out, discerning and able to kind of question, and we lose that faculty, then yeah, we're just going to become. It's scary to future project that multiple generations and think what we become by not having that ability to question and discern. So, there's some things that I believe that are foundational, that are healthy practices that a lot of coaches talk about that are just, I think, always going to work. Meditation, like allowing yourself to really get quiet and listen to the thoughts that are coming up, and just watch the waves and allow yourself to sit and be uncomfortable. People are so afraid to be bored that they can't sit and be bored. So they have to constantly be listening to a podcast, reading a book, moving, creating, moving. But Einstein would literally go for a walk for hours and bounce a ball. He would lay on the grass and just look at the shape of the clouds and just think about how the universe would bend if he did this thing, or what happens when we're moving through space in this way. And he would just contemplate loosely, like I started out saying at the beginning of the call, just contemplating loosely all of the potentiality. And so you can practice discernment, 1, by meditating and listening to your thoughts. 2, by journaling and learning to ask yourself questions. I feel like this, right? How do you feel in this moment? I feel stuck. I feel frustrated. There's pressure on my chest. Okay. And now look at what you just wrote. Why did I use the word frustrated? What is the pressure on my chest? So that's number 2. 1, meditate. 2, learn to write and have a conversation with yourself and use your hand. I highly recommend, there's so much more power in handwriting. There's literally neural connections happening in your brain when we write versus type. Number 3, though, I highly recommend that people start to tune in to the feelings and emotions in their body even more. We are radio antennas walking around. There is a constant, sleeping, waking, doesn't matter, constant bridge of information being sent out in our electromagnetic frequency from the field of our head and heart, and a constant flow of information coming in. Okay? And so us being these radio channels, one of the things that's happening is oftentimes we'll stub our toe, we'll have a certain pain in our back. That pain will be on the left or on the right side predominantly. That pain will be in the upper or the lower back. The back represents the subconscious, usually represents something happening in the past. Back usually represents support. When we learn these things, we can then tune into what is our body feeling and what is that telling us. That also helps with discernment. I teach practices like kinesthetic and muscle type testing practices to help clients discern if something is telling them, don't go in that direction, right? And you feel this heaviness and this anxiety and this fear, most people will think, oh, that's a sign not to do that thing. No. That's a sign something's coming up in your pattern responses, and you need to work through the thing that used to stop you to go do the thing. People will take it instead as a sign, I'm not supposed to do that because it's uncomfortable. I'm afraid, something's telling me not to do it. No, you're just fucking scared. Because either your mom tried something similar when you were a kid and she imprinted that into you, and so literally it's in your genetic DNA code, or because something happened when you were younger, you made a subconscious decision about what doing something like that would mean, what the result would be, or what it would mean about you if you did that thing, or how people would judge you. And so you're feeling fear and anxiety around it. So helping someone to discern whether or not I'm afraid because it's not for me, don't go down that road, danger, right? The spidey sense, or discerning, no, something's coming up for me to work through. And I am going in the right direction. This is actually what it's supposed to feel like. So those other practices of being in meditation, in contemplation, of journaling and listening to your body are how you start to fine tune that ability to hyper tune your intuition and your ability to discern, to make better decisions, to be more aligned in your actions.
Well, you've coached for about 16 years, different entrepreneurs, people that have exited businesses, other coaches, and you've developed a powerful method that connects purpose, vision, and also feeling alive, like igniting their flame. Like, could you expand upon that? What is that method?
Yeah, the Ignite method. And so it's an acronym, insight and grounding and navigation and integration, traction, and expression. And so essentially, when I was, that financial planner that you talked about, there was a moment in time when I recognized, and it was actually ironically after having one of my best years financially, there was a moment when I recognized, man, I'm really exhausted doing this. And I'm actually unhappy most of the time. Like 90% of the time. There's 10% when I'm actually with a client or when I get a sale, right? And so like Pavlov's law, when they ring the bell and the dog starts to salivate, right? So, after being a financial planner for a lot of years, every time you get a sale, you get excited, you start to salivate, right? And so, but I'm not a very money driven person. That's not actually the driver for me. I can do a lot with very, very little. And so there was a point when I was this financial planner and I recognized the work is good and I'm not bad at it. Obviously I'm trending in the right direction, right? I just won this trip, all expenses paid, beautiful 5-star resort. I was able to bring my girlfriend. And I had this moment of like reflection when everything finally stopped and I slowed down enough to try and enjoy the moment. And I recognized, man, like I worked so hard just to get here. And now I've got to do that all again to get to whatever the next level is. And I'm not excited by that process or idea at all. I hate 90% of the work itself. Don't feel connected to like the industry of finance, other than really just enjoying being with my clients and kind of hanging out with them. I really, really just like the people aspect. Other than that, why am I doing this? And when that came up really loud for the first time, I felt like I had lost my purpose. And it ended up bringing me in, like spiraling down into depression because I didn't have any tools. None of what we're doing right now existed fucking 15 years. There was like Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer. There was like literally a handful of people. Most people didn't know about it because either it was pre-internet or internet was such a baby. There was no social media. So the things that so many of like the younger generation kind of take for granted, it just didn't exist. It just didn't exist. There were books. There was the library. There were books. There were a handful of people. And that was about it. If you didn't know about those people because they weren't on your TV and there wasn't social media, then you didn't have access to that information. So long story short, I just didn't have the tools at the time to deal with that feeling of this used to be the thing that was my entire identity and purpose. And now I recognize I'm suffering and I hate it. What the fuck do I do now? I don't have a college degree. I kind of stumbled into this industry in the first place. I don't have any other really trainable skills. Like, what do I do? And I also built a book of business with over like 200 clients and been telling people for over 7 years, or at the time that I'm having this realization, 5 years, this is who I am. This is what I do. I'm going to be doing this forever. I'm good at this. So all of a sudden to realize I'm miserable at this, not great at it, but I'm good. And this isn't for me. Man, the now what, it really, really broke me. And I went into depression. Coming out of that depression took almost 2 years. And I lived in a basement. I was miserable. I was bankrupt, literally bankrupt. I was suicidal at times. And what happened was some of the things that I did have access to, I did go to a couple workshops. I did read a bunch of books. I did know about Tony and had some of his audiobooks. And so I started to really apply the things that I did have access to. Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, YouTube had just begun, literally had just begun. So I was watching these YouTube videos, like these positive, motivational, inspirational YouTube videos like Will Smith. That literally is what kept me alive. And I became obsessive about that material. And then I started to actually apply it to my life every single day, like an obsessive commitment to run, to use affirmations, to meditate, to clean out my entire, kitchen of anything that wasn't what I considered healthy at the time. And a vision finally did come through of what I wanted to do, which was coach. And from that point on, I became obsessive about that. About 2 years later, after starting coaching, just doing what I thought coaching was at the time, somebody invited me to create a program. A friend of mine basically bet me $500. Like, you've been talking about this for too long, of having this program that you want to serve a lot of people with, versus just like the once in a while one-on-one coaching I was doing for pennies, by the way. And he was like, if you don't create that program in the next 48 hours, you owe me $500. Went home that night and I built what is still to this day the initial framework of Ignite Purpose. launched it within 2 days, put like 15 people in there, 10 stuck around, and never looked back. And so that framework essentially became kind of a twofold thing. I recognized one, kind of reverse engineered what got me out of that basement into a life that I was actually enjoying at the time. Really happy, healthy, living in paradise in California. And so I just reversed what I felt were the main primary principles. Number two, I based it on principles because no matter what your situation, age, career, doesn't matter. A principle will always be relevant, right? Like the principle of gravity in our current experience of reality is going to be relevant until it's not, right? There's certain principles, universal principles. The law of attraction is a absolute universal principle that is real. Most people don't understand how it actually works, but it's very real. So basing something on principles versus just a static strategic model, that model could have its time and just be no longer relevant. But on principle, it'll always be relevant. So the principle, so each one of the initials in Ignite is actually a principle. The principle of insight, tuning your insight, learning to go inward before externalizing whatever it is that you're experiencing. Before making money about money in your empty bank account, go inward. Before making your relationship and the struggle that you're having with your wife about how she's behaving or about some mistake you made, go inward, right? Navigation, learning how to navigate your past and your history that created these patterns and conditioning that you keep repeating. Understanding what that, where it came from and what's yours versus what's not yours. So learning to navigate your history, not stay there, but to move through it, understand it, learn from it, learn from that terrain. Grounding, always going to be a relevant principle because the more grounded we are, the more present and connected that we are, right? And this builds our capacity to make better decisions, to be more present with the people in our life, to be more discerning, tap into our intuition. You can't do that if you're not grounded. So I kind of built the framework of Ignite Purpose on these principles, and then just started teaching it, and it's evolved. It's this living, breathing thing. It's like the way I teach it now is very different than the way I initially taught it. Some of the things are always going to be constant. Some of the examples, some of the stories, and what the foundational principle of the learning is. But then how we how it's relevant now, or how to apply it to your life now. I've learned so much from these things.
I've heard my mom a lot talk about how through her therapy and how through her patients, she gets healed herself sometimes because it gets reflected.
Yes.
What other ways has coaching evolved you by doing coaching?
I mean, it took me, it's great of your mom to be able to pass that on to you, because it took me years to recognize that. It took me years to recognize how much was being reflected back to me of my own journey, of my own blocks, when I was speaking with a client. I could see so clearly what was for them, and what was coming up and why it was coming up. And a lot of times didn't understand like how that was, alive in me, which is why I would attract this client, or why I'd be able to guide them. So yeah, it's very humbling. So that's one thing. It taught me a level of humility to be able to be like, oh man, I'm trying to help this client do this thing. I'm still kind of stuck on that myself. And I'm not going to be able to really help them up level through that until I do at another level, right? Like I'm a few steps. It's always good to be a few steps ahead of your client, as they say. It's kind of cliche in the coaching industry, but it's true. As long as you're 2-3 steps, ahead of someone, and I don't like even the terminology of ahead, but for the sake of simple understanding, if you're farther along a particular path, like I am with coaching versus some new coach, right? So I could have helped a coach in my year 2 become a better coach if someone had never coached before, right? I didn't have to be here now at level, year 17 at this point to be able to share everything that I could share about coaching. So that's one thing I had to learn. One, it's okay to be a little farther ahead than your client. You're not hurting anyone. You just get to be very clear about what you're able to do for them, be honest, be transparent, and price accordingly. Right? It's one of the biggest things I see in like the coaching industry is like, oh, you need to charge, telling everyone they need to charge more. They haven't even fucking practiced the skill. They haven't even gotten someone to a level of transformation that proves what they're doing is actually working. They haven't even, like, back in the day, over centuries, we had apprentices. From an apprentice, you would then become a journeyman. From a journeyman, you would then you would become the thing. And then from doing the thing over a course of years, you would then become a master teacher. So there was this trajectory of like actual like learning, practicing, becoming good at something. You didn't just say, oh, I'm this thing now and now I charge $50,000. Fucking based on what? So that, as you can see, there's a trigger there for me in the industry. But aside, yeah, we're gonna poke some coaches there. Yeah, exactly. You need to charge more. Have you even checked to see whether or not this person is able to get people results? We just assume you just need to ask for more money. There's other things before that, trust me. Anyway, so the question was, what have I learned? So one of the things I learned was humility. I learned that a lot of times a client's reflecting back to me something I do need to look at in myself. I learned I only need to be a little farther along to truly be of support to someone and really help them and to get out of my own head and imposter syndrome and fear and just know I'm a good person who really cares and I'm doing good work. And then I had to learn that building anything takes time, and that even when you're doing well, as you know, sometimes you're doing well one moment and then, man, it's interesting to just assume you'll always be going along that trajectory and that nothing negative is going to happen. And sometimes, man, things happen. You get in your own way at a whole nother level that you wouldn't have anticipated years prior. And so just knowing that too is part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now let's talk about debunking some myths about the coaching industry.
Okay. Which ones?
let's get to them. So, what do you think is the biggest misconception of the coaching industry right now?
Well, that's going to depend on, I guess, who you're talking to, whether or not someone has experience with coaching. It's interesting you're asking this question because I actually have been formulating a post that I'm going to share about what coaching is and what coaching isn't. And so I think in terms of people who still haven't really experienced coaching, or at the very least coaching at a high level, they still think coaching is giving advice. It's not. My boss used to give me this example. Old mentor of mine said, you can give someone who has very little skill but a whole lot of hunger a phone book. And, this was in the financial planning days, and tell them dial for dollars and just go. And if that person is focused enough, hungry enough, desperate enough, they will out-call you and out-earn you every time. You give somebody else the perfect system with all these warm leads of people who can't wait to buy, but that person's not focused, not hungry, and they'll make a few calls, maybe make a few sales, and they'll go hang out at the beach, and they'll struggle and they'll blame the system. And so the truth is like, you think giving someone the how-to is going to solve the problem, and you just need to give them the right advice and tell them the right thing. But oftentimes you can give someone gold and they're just not in a position to do anything with it. And you can just say one positive thing to someone who is focused, listening, willing, open. Like literally just ask them a good question and have a fucking light bulb go off and transform their life. And so I think one of the biggest misconceptions still to this day is that a coach just, someone who gives good advice.
Mm.
That's one of the biggest ones.
Got it.
Has a good system, tell somebody what to do.
Is coaching an easy industry to win at?
I'd like to believe we're born to do certain things. So kind of going back to a much earlier question, and helping people like figure out their purpose, how to do it, right? And what that is and blah, blah, blah. I've used tools my whole life that I really, really love because I'm someone, through using these tools, I discovered why I'm someone who really likes to use these types of tools, right? Like my brain, the way I'm built, just enjoys that type of thing. Okay. And I have found people who aren't born like that still enjoy these tools. Some of them are numerology, astrology, Enneagram, human design, and gene keys. I've put these things, all 5 of them together in a binder for myself and for my clients, and have had clients like worked through these systems with clients. And take me back to your question. Why was I going down that road?
So is coaching...
Oh, hard or easy? Yeah. So what I discovered is that there are certain things that we are innately built for in this lifetime. Right? I am built one way or the other. Even if I end up packing boxes in a warehouse someday, I'm in some way or another going to still always be a teacher/coach. I am a sage, according to a couple of those tools I was just talking about. And it's just evident that is in my DNA. It is part of my fate and purpose for being here. It's the essence of why I'm here. So I'm going to be a speaker, teacher, coach in some way, no matter what I do. I'm also going to be someone who is in a supportive role. Management, coaching, teaching, helping someone else in some way. Those 2 things will always be a through line in my work and in my life, period. So to answer your question, is it easy or hard? For me, I literally remember 2 moments in my life when I decided to be a coach that were the most profound experiences leading me on this path. I was 8 years old. My dad was cheating on my mom. My mom stops at a stop sign and just has a friggin' breakdown. And I'm in the passenger seat and she's crying and she just starts telling me, I can't even remember what she told me. My recollection is she was telling me, my dad's cheating or, they're having a hard time or something. Something you wouldn't tell an 8-year-old, basically. Right?
Not even the son, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But keep in mind, my parents were, my mom was a recovering addict at the time. My dad was an addict. And they were teenagers when they had me. So we're all just doing the best we can with what we got. But the point is here's my mom having this breakdown, telling me things that you wouldn't normally tell an 8-year-old. And I just remember being in the seat, like feeling like this is normal. And feeling like I could console her. And I think I remember telling her, it's okay, Mom. Like, it's going to be okay. Love you. And like feeling like I was there to help her and that it was okay. And that I was, that was like how it's supposed to be. Had another instance when I was 12 years old. A friend of mine in grade school calls me from a party that his older brother's throwing, and they're trying to get him to smoke weed. Now, this dude was already like 6 foot in 7th grade. He was like a dude's dude from the start. Played hockey, big dude. But he's calling me crying, saying they're trying to get me to smoke weed. I don't know what to do. And I just remember being on the phone with him for like a half an hour, helping him through. And I was the one he called. And I felt it was completely normal. And I knew exactly what to say. I have no clue what the hell I said. But I just knew it was like, yep, I got you. And I just was on the phone. And there's multiple times throughout my life where that thing occurred and continues to occur. So to answer your question, this is the way I answer questions, is to say the answer is yes and no. Like with financial planning, it wasn't what I was born to do. But there were certain aspects of that were part of my path that showed me, gave me certain skills of enrollment, of communication, of working with clients, of building a business, certain aspects I was supposed to get from that, but the industry wasn't the thing. So for some people, that will be the thing, and it'll be easy, and you'll look at them and you'll be like, how the F am I working this hard? And this person just seems to just show up and people hand them money. What is going on? Same with coaching. That's how I answer your question. I believe there's a certain level of you are born to do this. If not, get out, because you are hurting yourself and other people. Get what you need to learn from trying to do the process, and then go do something else you're actually meant for. Because it is extremely hard.
Yeah. What do you think the coaching industry needs right now?
It needs more coaches, training coaches. No, I'm just more coaches who are coaching coaches to be coaches on coaches. No, yeah, another little trigger point. But ironically, I've had multiple people tell me I should be coaching coaches. I should really go down that niche. And for a long time, I resisted that. But just because I just have my own stuff around that. None of us are perfect. The other thing you need to learn about coaching is you don't have to be perfect. And a lot of stuff I say because I've been surrounded in the industry by coaches for 2 decades now. And it's like, I just know it inside and out. I know some of the most amazing humans in the world, and they are coaches. The thing that the coaching industry needs more of. So I have this belief. I believe we've been lied to in the coaching industry that in order to be a coach, you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to be a business owner. You have to. I believe that's a lie. Yeah. And I believe it does a great disservice to a great number of people who would get to be doing this work. And so for some, learning the industry and learning the business around it, I've built my own funnels. I've built landing pages. I've read marketing books. I've learned the things that I would need to survive and start a coaching business and to be in it for this long and to just even and feed myself and even have 6-figure years. But what I recognized was we're being told this lie that you have to be good at marketing and become a business owner and do all of these things in order to deserve the right to coach. And I think it's doing a lot of disservice. There's a lot of great people who would be coaches that aren't able to actually serve and help people. And so I think that the coaching industry needs people who are really good at understanding what a coach's genius is. And they're good at what we call the mechanics and like the marketing, the back end. And we need more of those people, not necessarily. Yeah, I know that there's always going to be consultant agencies, and those agencies are going to want to be successful and help as many people as they can and make a whole lot of money. I'm hoping that more people come along with the individual skill and they partner with coaches. And they're not just an agency trying to get as many coaches as possible to make millions. They get like a handful of coaches and they do a rev share and they help that handful as if each one of those is their only client, and they end up making, as an agency or as a person, twice as much, 3 times, 10 times as much as if they were trying to help a ton of little clients. And those coaches find those people that are a good fit, that can learn their language, their nuances, and really take their genius out and put it out into the world. And that, I think that's what the coaching industry needs, is more of those services, more of those partnerships, so that people who don't have necessarily the skill at running a business have the support that they need to be able to be in their zone of genius and coach, do what they love.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, so that was coaching. Now let's go back to you. If you could go back 17 years ago, you are able to talk to Dallas. He's about to embark on this beautiful journey of coaching.
Don't do it. No. Turn back now. No, I'm just totally joking. Go ahead.
What would you tell him? Like 3 things you would tell him.
It's like 10. Oh my God. It's interesting. I wouldn't change a thing, but I would have very different wisdom and advice for that guy for sure. If I was to distill it down to 3 things, enjoy the ride more for sure. Really enjoy the ride more. That's one. Number 2, systemize your stuff better from the outset. One thing that I didn't do when I look at people like Paul Chek, these people with the Joe Dispenza, when I look at certain people, they have a methodology, a system, a framework, not only like I do for the overarching principles, right? But then as you get into each principle, there's a very clear framework and roadmap through each of that, through each part, that makes it repeatable, able to follow along. It's chunked down into like beginner, intermediate, and pro. And so you know what your pathway is, your trajectory, it's digestible, it's repeatable, right? Because that helps not just someone who is an auditory learner, but a visual learner, helps somebody who's a little bit more right brain, but also very left brain. And so it also just improves your ability to teach it over and over again, makes it easy for you to pass your process on to another coach and then scale that way, right? Very early on, I had someone be like, oh my God, I want to do what you're doing. And I didn't have the framework and the tool to give to them. And it didn't even occur to me at that time. It was like, yeah, at some point I'll do that. And then I just kind of never thought about it again, right? So I would just build in the frameworks and the processes earlier on. And that was 2, right? Would be a third thing. I'd probably do more live events earlier on. Because online marketing was so popular, like it was like like because of how long I've been doing it, it was like literally at the birth of online marketing. Literally, like when I first started building my website for my what was called Passion Warrior at the time, or Excel Coaching with Dallas. Even before that, like the very very beginning, it was when WordPress was invented. So I literally, was at my table figuring out WordPress for myself, building my own website at the time. So this was like literally the birth of internet marketing. And so I thought I had to be online in order to scale and give myself the space and the freedom. And I probably would have done more live first, or along in combination with.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. Where can people find you, Dallas? How can they work with you?
Yeah, I'm on IG the most. So I would say go to IG. There's a link there to apply to work directly with me.
What's your username?
You can also DM and message me. It's Dallas_Michael_Cyr, CYR. So it's basically my name. If you put up Dallas Michael Cyr or even Dallas Michael, I'll come up immediately. You can even just go to my website, Dallas Cyr. My first and last name together, DallasCyr.com. Another way that you could do it. That'll link you also to Instagram. But yeah, either my website, DallasCyr.com, or my IG.
Mm-hmm.
And I love answering questions and connecting with people, and so yeah, but just please, for whoever's watching, really feel free to reach out.
Got it. If going back to the purpose question, if you could leave one thing to the viewer or the listener right now, how can they get closer to being in their purpose, what would that be?
Yeah. Genuinely do what excites you most. Really, really, what are you most excited about? And being able to ask yourself, like, am I excited about this because like it really lights me up and I feel like I could, you know, you don't have to feel like it's the only thing you ever want to do always. That's one of the biggest mistakes. So get out of your head about that. Okay. If it's making puzzles, if it's flying kites, if it's going down the river in a kayak, if it's hanging out with friends, if it's reading books, if it's, you know, posting on social media, what genuinely brings you true joy and excitement, do more of that on a consistent basis, whatever that is.
Dallas, it's been a powerful conversation, man. Really.
Thank you, brother, for having it.
Of course. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate you. Talk to you soon.